Hi, everybody. It's Karen Anderson here with Aortic Hope's Week in Review. I will ask you to do what I ask every week. Please click like. Please click subscribe. This way you'll be notified of all of these informative and fun, wonderful events that we have that go live at any particular time, although this is weekly. And with us here today, we have Tammy and Chris. See, this is my background applause noise. I like that. What we do here on our weekend review is we kind of go over all of the posts that we had up on our website as well as Facebook and give you guys an opportunity, you might not be into social media in that way, to check us out, listen to some of the informative articles and fun things that we post, and you have an opportunity to interact with us. Leave us a comment. Comments are really important to us. They mean a lot. They let us know that you're listening, that you appreciate everything that's going on. And we can kind of communicate with you via your comments on our page. So let's get right into it, shall we? So Monday was Movement for Movement. And back in 2020, we talk about this every other week, and I still think it's still coincidental. Prior to the pandemic, we started a movement for movement because we know that it's really important for people in our community to move their bodies, to not get hung up in some kind of cardiac coma type situation where you're paralyzed with fear. It's important to exercise your heart muscle as well as the rest of your body. But we do know that doing nothing is doing something. And many of us sometimes just need the support to get moving. And as seen in Polar, an article entitled How to Turn Walking into an Effective Workout, which was written by Brooke Turner, it says, and I quote, "Walking briskly improves your cardiovascular fitness, strengthens your bones and muscles, and improves your balance and coordination, which are increasingly important the older you get. Walking comes with mental benefits as well. Research shows that walking improves your mood and works to reduce stress and tension." Now, this article not only discusses the benefits of walking, but how long your walk should be, how to get the most out of walking, and the 4 tips for turning your walk into an actual workout, which would be walking with a view, choosing a route with an incline or mixed terrain, adding resistance to your workout, and varying the intensity. And then we have the link here, and we can talk about it a little bit. And you know, the first tidbit here, and then I'm going to go ahead and ask Tammy to give her thoughts. Walking with a view. I hate treadmills. And you know why? Because I never get anywhere. Just sitting there. You keep walking in place. And I need to see something. And I have found when I'm in Disney, I seem to be able to walk longer distances than when I'm on the treadmill. And I do believe it's because when I have a view, I'm looking at it, I'm taking it in. It's preoccupying my mind. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about that? The first one, taking in a view.
Oh, absolutely. I get insanely bored on a treadmill. And I watch the clock, and the only way I can stay on the treadmill if somebody's next to me talking to me. But what I found when I was doing cardiac rehab, I felt the same way. Like 6 minutes seemed like forever. And it was almost painful. I would cover up the time, I'd do everything. And I don't care about the listening to the music, I would still watch the clock. But I can give you some ideas of things that helped me when I finished cardiac rehab. It was just the beginning of winter, so going out and walking in the cold air wasn't the answer either. So I did discover, I used to do these years ago, there's something on YouTube called Walk Away the Pounds. And it's really great. I thought, how can there be a whole video about walking? But there is, and you can just do what they have different levels that you can watch the different people doing things. It's kind of like a little bit of a dance. So she might say, take 2 steps forward, take 3 steps back, 2 steps to the side. So I was still getting my cardio in. I was still, making my heart work, but it went so much faster because it seemed like there were other people there, and it wasn't just over and over and over again. I have since then, now that I'm back at the gym and I do some cardio on my own on the treadmill, I have discovered that you can download movies and watch Netflix movies on the treadmill, and that does keep me much more occupied than even a podcast. So
Okay.
I have a couple series now that I only allow myself to watch while I'm on the treadmill. So it's kind of like my reward. So
All right. That's good. I didn't even know that. And I wrote that down. That again is called Walk Away the
walk
Pounds.
away the pounds. It used to be you could only buy them as CDs or DVR things or whatever. But yeah, now they're on YouTube and they're pretty fun. I've done them on rainy days since then.
I'm going to definitely check that out. Chris, what are your thoughts on it? Just trying a walking workout with a view.
Sounded like Tammy was line dancing. 2 steps forward, 3 back, to the side. Yeah, we around here, I live, I don't know, within 2 miles of our zoo, and I try to get there at least every other day, so that I can walk. It's usually about 2 miles to walk in there. I have to have something to look at, you know. And I went 3 times throughout the week last week, and then we just went yesterday too. And yesterday was really nice because it was actually, in the high 60s. But no, I agree. I have to have a view too, and just like Tammy, I actually watch Netflix at the gym too. I can log into their Wi-Fi, so I just use that. I don't actually download anything, but yeah, I stream on my phone so that I can watch it because I've noticed even with that though, like there are times where I find myself looking at the clock and seeing how either how far I've gone or how many minutes has been, and if you actually have somebody that's right there beside you, it's tremendous. It's amazing how fast the time can actually go by doing that. And then I know, like like on your picture too, it looks like there's like rough terrain or something. So, but we went to a thing called what is it, Bernheim Forest or whatever. It goes over like the forest giants and all that stuff. They're just made out of wood and all that stuff. But that whole trail is like 10 miles long, and surprisingly, I was able to do it. I took like 5 or 6 breaks, but I did it. We did it in like the end of September last year. So, just 4 or 5 months after I had, had the dissection happen. And, taking breaks, I was a little disappointed about that, but I was really proud that I could do the entire 10 miles,
Wow.
and, but yeah, I mean, having something to look at or having somebody to talk to that's the only way I can do it. Cause there's no way I could just listen to music. I love music just as much as anybody, but that does nothing for me walking on a treadmill.
When I'm on the treadmill, and it may even talk about adding music, I start to want to increase it. And then I push myself where I have no business pushing myself that fast. So I've got all these great DJ mix-ups, mashups, and, I start listening to music and I start going really, really, really fast. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna die. It's the worst. So yeah, I like music too, but I need that to be on actual earth terrain, which is interesting because now they're going to talk about terrains. And here they're recommending that you should choose a route with an incline or with some kind of terrain. And again, with that, I don't like walking around a track. I'll do it because I'm outside, but it's just a big circle. And in my mind, I know 4 times around is a mile. So I'm already thinking this is monotonous.
But I
Oh
do.
my God, and gosh forbid if you forget how many times you've been around. Well, now I think I got to start over again. But there's a couple parks near us that you just, you go through the woods. You might even come across a little pixie fairy town or little things on the ground. And it's just enough to capture your attention to think that was interesting. Or maybe you come around the bend and you're now on a bridge, or it opens up to an equestrian center or a little waterfall, and something like that. That little bit of mixed terrain, I think, is wonderful. For me, if there's going to be any incline, I like to see some benches sporadically placed so that if I need to take a minute and take a breather, like in Disney, I love using Disney because it's just so vast, you have a second to sit down. But Chris, what do you think about flat versus an incline or a terrain?
I know that while I'm walking up the hills at the zoo, I despise them. um, but I really look forward to those downhills. Really, I can nail those all day long. Um, but yet like yesterday, we went and we tried to walk it as fast as the pace as I can without losing my footing and stuff. And I happened to look down a couple times at my Apple Watch, and I looked at it, and my resting heart rate is in the high 40s, low 50s.
Wow.
And a couple times, I was in like the 115, 120 area. That's phenomenal for me. And it, I noticed it was literally after every time that we got to the point to where we had to climb a hill or something like that, I would check it and see what it was, and it was actually in a good heart, in a good place. But yeah, I kind of like the walking on the track with the four times. You're seeing the same thing over and over 4 times. It's not going to be that interesting,
Nope, I agree. Tammy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I love the idea of going to a zoo because the anticipation of the next thing would keep you going. So, right. Yeah, we do some hikes usually on the weekends when my husband's home. We'll pick some hikes to go to, and it usually has around here in Maryland. We have the different terrain. So, yeah.
Well, you've got the picture of the beach behind you.
I know.
So, and it's interesting because the boardwalk is flat, but again, you've got the smell of French fries, cotton candy, popcorn, fun shops, blaring that, dance music, tons of people to look at, which, then makes the walk even more entertaining. So yeah, I'm okay with the mixed terrain. I will tell you, I do not like taking walks on the beach. I find it very challenging now for me.
Sand.
In the dry sand. The wet sand's not as difficult, but dry.
I find that too. Karen and I went to a fundraiser last year, and we had to trek across the deep sand, not the hard soft, but it was a soft, like you sink in sand, and we had to do it a couple times, and I was pretty exhausted at the end of that day.
It can make you very winded, I think.
It's funny you mentioned people, because I mean, again, you can go to the zoo every day and you're literally seeing the same animals. It's not like they're getting a plethora of animals every single day.
Right.
They're
changing their clothes or anything, right?
but the people, I can do that all day long. Just like walking at the mall, even though that's flat. I can sit there. I can gawk at people all day long. I can make stories up about people's lives.
Oh yeah.
We try to guess who's married and who's not.
Yeah. We like to go walk around the beach, and then if I see two people, if it's my husband and I or a friend, I'll say, okay, I'll take the one on the left, you're the one on the right. And then when they talk, I give the dialogue, and then next, you've walked 20 miles following them. Not that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
All right, well, there goes our incline and mixed terrain. And if you take a look and really read into these articles, they really talk about everything like inclines and how good they are for increasing your cardiovascular fitness. And so there's a lot of details in each of these numbers here. But number 3, this one's interesting, adding resistance. And this is kind of what I was doing when we started Movement for Movement, and I would go live at the time. I would just walk around my house. So I would look at the watch. I knew how many times around was a mile, but every time I stopped at the sofa, I would sit down. That's my squat. I'd sit on the sofa, I stand back up, I go to the wall, do 2 wall push-ups, and keep going around. So this is talking about adding resistance, and they're saying, what does it say here? So if you can incorporate the following for every lap that you complete, or every 5th bench in a park or something like that, if you do tricep dip, first of all, I am not doing that in public because I'll probably fall and bust my.
What you said.
an incline push-up, step ups with each leg, bench crunches. These are simple things that people can do in the house, if your doctor said it's okay and you wanted to walk around your house and just go up 2 steps holding the railing, go back down 2 steps. So you can make up these routines and make them as crazy as you want and change them up so that it's not so boring. And I think for a lot of us, that's the key. Tammy, what are your thoughts?
I haven't tried any of that, but one of the things I did do especially during my recovery, and I was trying to get the strength back, is I did wear the weights on my ankles, and just doing daily routines. And first I wear it for 15 minutes. The next day, next week I wore it for a half an hour, and I really think that helped. And I didn't have to do it in public. If I got tired, I sat down. But that really helped. I had a lot of fatigue in my legs, and I had a lot of like tingling between my thighs and my knees. And I know I am torn down to the iliac, so I guess that's why I don't get that as much anymore. But yeah, just adding some weights to my daily routine seemed to help.
And Chris?
Yeah, I use resistance bands a lot. I've got different weights or whatever, for that. But because I truly missed not actually going to the gym and working out, because I used to do that 6 days a week before any of this happened. And I think sometimes if I listen to the music while I'm on the treadmill, I get a little too cocky and I think, hey, I'm gonna go work out, and then I'm quickly met with like reality. And I realize, nah, I'm not going to. I'm not going to do it. But yeah, at home, I do resistance training. I don't think that I would ever literally do any of that while I was out in public.
I think, it says here, invest in a pair of ankle or wrist hand weights. And the next thing that talks about holding something in your hands reminds you to pump your arms. So I'm wondering if either of you, I found prior to my dissection, when I was training to walk very fast for a 10K, because this chick doesn't run unless you yell fire. When I would walk long distances, my hands really hurt. My fingers would swell immensely. It didn't matter the temperature. They just really hurt. And that's because you're swinging them constantly and they're constantly hanging down. But I kind of like this idea. Maybe even if you brought a stress ball with you or something where it reminds you just to pick your hands up and kind of get the blood flowing through your hands a little bit. Do either of you find that you feel the same sensation in your arms or your hands?
I haven't had that. I just, if it's like below 50 degrees outside and I try to walk outside, my ears get so cold that they hurt. So I'm that girl that you still see with the earmuffs on walking outside, because they just hurt so bad. Yeah. But I haven't had that with my hands.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm not gonna run unless there's a taco truck, because I'll run tacos all day long. But the what is that? That's the second to the last sentence where it says, if you don't want to be walking the streets with your light dumbbells, you could always take a drink bottle and swap arms. Yep. I do that, and I didn't even know that I was, really even doing anything. I just take it because I know at some point I'm gonna get parched. But yeah, that's what I did. On longer trails, we for like water and stuff, I wore like Camelbacks or something like that. But while I'm at the zoo or I'm walking or something outside, then I always take a water bottle with me and swapping arms while you're walking.
Well, and then that's added weight too. So I didn't even think about it. Before dissection, when I was doing my training, I had a waist thing that held 2 little water bottles on the sides. In addition, I had a thing around my upper arm that held the phone so that I could listen to the music. So, those are little tricks that they do change it up. They do add a little bit of extra resistance or weight. And the whole key here with this article and what we're talking about is to change the routine of movement to make the movement a little bit more exciting and interesting. And here we are, we're varying the intensity of your walking workout. So they're talking about changing the speed, changing the incline if you're on the dreaded treadmill. And I could see us all being like Tammy, being outside and listening to this walk away the pounds, and you're going to see me going 2 steps forward and now to the side. And I don't care what people think of me when I'm outside, but hey, you know what? It's again, if you have a dog with you, you could take the dog for a walk. You're going to go a little bit faster. You're going to slow down so the dog smells everything. So take a minute and stop and smell the roses when you're on your walk. Take some pictures of your walk. When we go live all the time, we put pictures out there. Hey, we're moving. It's movement for movement. Show us what you're doing today. So I think for me, the idea of trying to do whatever helps you not feel so nervous about moving is really what's key. We're not in competition with anybody but ourselves. Oh, look, they even talk about music. Great way to stay motivated. Keep the music at about 128 beats per minute. That seems to be the normal brisk walk for most people. So what are your final parting thoughts on walking?
I just wanted to add, I know Karen and I both have tried to go back to the gym lately, and we both found two different ways of doing it. I left a gym that was a large gym and nobody really knew me, and was able to find a small gym that was actually attached to a physical therapy place that does cardiac rehab. And so I interviewed places, and I found a place that they were willing to work with me. They take my blood pressure when I come in, they check my oxygen, my heart rate. And then I go do my thing. I do a set routine that they helped me come up with. And then at the end, I just go over and they check me out before I get in my car to leave home and to go home. If I'm not feeling well, like I have a tendency to hold my breath when I'm exercising, and I know that I'm going to get real lightheaded. If they see me sitting, they know what's going on. They'll come over and check on me. They've helped me a lot with that. And I know Karen found a different way, a different path. So.
Right. So I completed cardiac rehab. I hate, and I mean hate, capital H, going to the gym. I tried one day a couple weeks ago. I was all excited. Nobody knew who I was, because I just don't go to the gym. But I walked in there and I even asked, I said, could someone just show me a couple pieces of equipment? Nobody would show me a thing. So I got on the treadmill. By the time I figured out all the buttons, I was like, ugh. And then I got on the bike, and then I just hated everything about being there. That's me. I don't like it. I feel like it's punishment. But what I decided to do instead is I called up physical therapy. I got a script easily. They had no problem. And the diagnosis code was extreme fatigue and unconditioned, being underconditioned. So now I work with my physical therapist. We start off taking my heart rate and my oxygen level. And a lot of that, I think, is mental. It's helping me feel a sense of confidence. Like, look what you're doing, and your oxygen hasn't changed, even though I feel like I'm gasping. Oxygen's not changing. And we have 3 tiers. And so the buckets start off with a lot of just body work, just moving your legs in and out, doing bridges, laying on a table, then warming up on the bike. And then after that, we check my numbers. If my body's responding good, we move on to the next tier, which is kicking up in intensity. And then we do it again. After 3 things, we check the numbers. Then we do the final one, which is the most intense. And then we, of course, have a cool down. And I'm coming out of there looking at numbers and feeling so much more confident that I have spent at that point 1 whole hour doing 20 of, 2 sets of 10, and it seems little, but now I'm doing the stuff at home. So now I'm basically almost working out double in a day, or 5 days a week at least. And I'm not feeling horrifically sore. I feel good sore, which is nice. So what's your words, Chris, before we move on to Tuesday?
Mine's kind of similar to yours. I when I got out and I had completed, physical therapy and all that, and wanted to go to the gym, a very, very large chain gym. I was very disappointed with the lack of attention, the lack of help that I could have, I asked a couple times, to have someone show me, a couple different pieces of equipment that I could actually use. And it was like, and I think my expectations were that they were going to, just go leaps and bounds for me, because I see them doing that with other groups, but that group is, the silver sneakers group or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And I see that, and I'm like, hey, I'm not in that age group, but my limitations, like I have several limitations that I can do in the gym now, and I need some type of guidance or some type of help, and I just didn't get that. And um, unfortunately, we still have not opened up the gyms for like water aerobics and stuff like that. So like the gyms where the swimming pools are still, those are still closed. Swimming pools are still closed because I would absolutely love that more than anything. But those are still closed. So yeah, I mean, I guess I just kind of started doing it on my own, and started talking to a couple people that are part of that whole Silver Sneakers Club, and they're actually the ones who showed me how to do stuff, not the actual gym, employees.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I love the water workouts, and our pool puts a dome up in the wintertime. So the dome up goes up sometime late October. It's coming down now this week as we speak. But even when the dome is up, the classes go on. I just don't like getting wet and then going out in the cold. But yet I go in the hot tub. Don't ask. I don't know. I have an answer. But I'll tell you, there's nothing more challenging than walking across the pool, turning around, and then walking across the current that you've now created. And the great thing is you can't hurt yourself. You're as long as you know how to swim, you're in the water, you can't break anything. You're just going to feel a lot of resistance. And there's nothing better really than swimming. Although I will say, when I try to do my front stroke or breaststroke, I feel when I get to a certain depth, I feel a lot of pressure in my chest. Even if my body's just decompressing and hanging, I can do anything on backstroke. I can just, because I love looking at the clouds. It doesn't hurt my chest. But you flip me over and I just seem to feel any sudden changes of pressure. But being in the pool, to me, I'm also a big water person. I think it's great because you lose this extra sense of the weight of your own body, and you have natural resistance, and you can even add extra weights and hand weights and stuff in the pool. So for those of you that you can get to a pool, if you've never tried it, I highly suggest it. In a lot of places like Kids Swim or Kids First or these swim places where they're teaching the children, they will actually have adult workouts. So you should take a look at that, or your local YMCA or something, because the water workouts are fabulous. But just do whatever it is your physician tells you to do. And if you need suggestions, ask the community to give you some interesting twists and ways that you can help yourself with this movement for movement. All right, guys, we're going to move on. We are moving on to Topic Tuesday. Oh my goodness, I loved this. Somebody had mentioned it the other day, so I knew I needed to find an article about it. Let's just take a look at these funky pictures for a second. And I don't know if either of you have experienced these shapes, but I have had everything except for this. These are the visual auras that tend to come with a migraine, with or without headache. And I have been experiencing these suckers, these little dancing alien triangles, and this since I was in elementary school. And I will never forget, and then we'll get to the article, I'll never forget the first time it happened. I don't remember what grade, but I was very young, and I saw a bright light, like, when the light hits a fender, the sun hits the fender. I just saw this bright light, and it wouldn't go away. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger until it completely filled up my field of vision. And I thought I was going blind. And I went to the school nurse. I was like, I'm blind. She called my mother. My mother takes me to the pediatrician, and he's like, no, she's having a migraine, to which I profusely began vomiting because the light was so painful. The sounds, the temperature, I became sensitive to everything. I started off with nitroglycerin under the tongue. I mean, and I was young. I was probably 10, 11 years old. And they lasted for a while. I think it happened as I was moving into puberty, because then they started to wane off. And then they began increasing again when I was taking chocolate or anything that was caffeine. And then when I saw the correlation and I stopped, they would start to go away. I hadn't had them for years. And then I had my dissection. And then they came back. And some of mine came back with a vengeance, and it's something called a complex migraine. So it has an aura, but it has similar features to a TIA, which I did not know. I didn't know you could have a droop on part of your face and it be a migraine and not be a stroke, or numbness or tingling. So it was a really hard, scary lesson to learn, but these floating triangles annoy the living hell out of me, or the zigzags. And when it hits, it's like, great, I'm having a migraine. Now it's going to take 20 minutes. Let me go get some, some Tylenol in case there's a headache. And then I get tired and it just wears me out. Tell me that you guys see these same bizarre things that I see. Tammy, tell me, do you see square A, B, or C or D?
A and D.
Really? I can't believe you see A. Okay.
Yeah, mine didn't start until after the dissection. It was really, really odd. I went right to the eye doctor and she explained it. She put pictures up like this and explained to me what was happening. Sometimes I'll get them a couple of days in a row and then I can go 6-10 weeks and it doesn't happen. I can't connect it to anything. Sometimes I feel like if I've got myself, I think I can cause it if I'm really stressed about a lot of things, because I noticed that they seem to happen at that time, but they also happen at other times. The other eye thing that I have that is not related to this, that didn't happen until after I had my dissection, was I have something called ocular apraxia, and it feels like my eyes have a Charlie horse in the muscles and they'll get stuck. It's just like the muscles in my eyes seize up. And it happens typically if I scan too fast to the side, if something catches my eye, and I just have to close my eyes for a while. Luckily, it has never happened while I was driving. It has happened while I've been a passenger, but it's never happened when I was driving. Wait a minute, I'm wrong. One time last summer, I had my mom in the car and I was like, okay, Mom, I didn't have to explain the whole thing to her. I told her what was happening and we pulled over and I just waited it out and it goes away. But yeah, I've had both of those.
Thank you for sharing the name of that, because I've had that too prior to dissection and after. The first time I was in the movie theater and was looking down at my popcorn, looked back up at the screen, and when I looked down at the popcorn, there was 2 things of popcorn.
Yes,
my eyes, and I freaked, and I looked at my husband. I was like, are my eyes double?
That's what I do. I like saying
no. He's like, your eyes look totally fine. I'm like, but I see like 4 of you. I don't. And I closed my eyes and I just did deep breathing, and eventually it relaxed. And you're right. They explain it like a Charlie horse in your calf. When the muscle cramps, it's just your muscles in your eyes. They get their own cramp. You can't see it looking at the other person. They will not see that your eyes are crossed, but it just takes a little bit to throw your vision off. And it is very scary. The only thing you need to be worried about, if in about 10 minutes it has not subsided, then you should go immediately to an ER or an eye doctor and tell them to take you right away, because it could be a sign of something else. But Chris, have you had any of these auras?
I'm extremely grateful. I have not.
Okay.
I've noticed that sometimes, I get blurred vision, but I've never experienced none of these right here. And I've never had migraines, but it's funny that you mentioned migraines, because it reminded me of my younger brother. Whenever we were growing up, he had migraines all the time. And then you mentioned food, and then you mentioned that it was like sometime around puberty.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally after he went through puberty, they never happened again. I mean, I was just hormonal. And I never thought about that until you mentioned that, and I got to thinking about it. I was like, you know what? He never once had a migraine after he went through puberty. Never happened. I've never experienced them. I know I was having really bad headaches before the dissection, probably for like 6 months before. I was having probably 2 or 3 a week, it seemed like. But I wouldn't, they weren't like debilitating to where I would get sick to my stomach or anything like that. So I just chalked it up as headaches, not actually migraines, from what I've seen people go through migraines. But yeah, I've never experienced any of those photos.
Let's learn about them, but because you may, and this way you'll be fully prepared. So if you see like a bright light that doesn't leave no matter where you look, and it starts to grow and takes over your peripheral. It's okay. If it happens when you're driving, though, I would strongly suggest to anyone that they pull over and let that moment pass. But so this is a common topic that we do actually hear in the community. And again, they can be accompanied with a headache, in which case they would be your classic migraine. But as read in WebMD's article written by William Moore titled Migraines with Aura and Migraines Without, it actually states when you have long-term migraine, it's about much more than the headache. You might feel sick to your stomach or find it hard to handle bright lights or certain sounds and certain smells. For some people, though, it doesn't stop there. You also get the aura, which is the visual part. Most often, an aura causes you to see strange things, like we've talked about. Could be colored spots, flashing lights. It can be scary, so now you know about it, especially the first time when it happens. Migraines without auras are actually more common than any other kind, and you can get them as often as several times a week or as little as once a year, as you were saying with your brother. Auras, the visual part that it can accompany a migraine, shows up in about 1 in 3 people with a migraine, but you're not likely to get them every single time. So it's possible you might have both types of migraines with auras happening here and there. Me personally, I only have a migraine with an aura. That's what signals me to let me know that the headache's coming. But again, if you wanted more additional information about these types of headaches, you can just click on this article. And, you know, we asked the community members to say, hey, if you've had this, what have you had? And it's one of those things that when you read the descriptions from people, it almost sounds a little funny, but you can relate. So when you say, well, I see this ring of choppy, sharp triangles, or I see these squiggles that take up my peripheral vision. They look like lightning bolt shapes. I mean, the things that people describe, it actually is kind of funny. I mean, for you to tell me the ones that you have, Tammy, that you have this floating little cloud, you know, I mean, we see it, it's there, and yet it's not there. But what I have found is there are actual migraine specialists, special neurologists, and this is all that they study is migraines. So if you find that you are not getting relief from Tylenol, because I know we're not supposed to take Advil, and again, taking Excedrin for migraine is caffeine. It's pure caffeine you're really taking in your system. If you're not getting relief from what your doctor tells you you can take, there's other medications out there that if you see a specialist, they can recommend and coordinate all of that care with your cardiologist. And in the end, there's Botox. So there's lots of other different types of treatment. They're not usually paid for by some of the insurances, but you can always see a specialist. They can give you some samples. And, you know, maybe Tammy, if you can, try to log, what was I doing right before? What did I eat? Sometimes they're happening for me if I go too long without eating. I'm getting a drop in pressure or sugar. And sometimes they happen when I have a Coca-Cola, which I'm not supposed to happen. But ironically, if I have a headache and I take a sip of Coke, it makes it feel better. So I don't know, go figure, you know. But caffeine, yay or nay, good or bad, everything in moderation, right?
Yep.
So that was our topic Tuesday. Thank you so much for sharing what you see, and thank you for sharing that you don't, and yet you've had a bad headache. So you never know, but this way, people in the community, if you get these visuals, which I love this, you don't need to be scared, only if it doesn't go away in about a half hour, because you never know if it's a detachment happening with your retina. You want to get something checked out. Seems like 30 minutes tend to be a lot of doctors' minimum time frame. If something happens, you should go get it checked out. But all right, Therapeutic Thursday. And this was just a post where we really wanted to impress upon the community what we are becoming extremely well known for. And that is our support group meetings that happen in a virtual environment. And it's not only for patients, but also for caregivers and for those who are grieving or have lost loved ones due to aortic disease. What makes these meetings special and very unique from any other organization is that they are moderated by other patients or caregivers or people who have lost loved ones. Typically, a lot of these support group meetings are moderated by nurses or physicians or therapists. And unless you have walked this walk, it's very hard to moderate the talk. Sometimes it can happen, but on a regular basis, it's much more effective when you can have a peer helping move the conversations along. And what we do also is we will have guest speakers give a private, what is the word I want to say, like a private meeting or I can't think, bloop, there goes the word. When you do a presentation, just came back in, a private presentation for a small group setting. So one of the things that we want to talk about that we did have an article that you should check out here is why support groups are important. And I'm going to ask the two of you to come up with why you think, but so support groups, they don't just offer a chance to have a meetup, right? I think that they give you a chance to share your stories, to feel validated, to ask questions, to create questions for yourself that you can take back to your doctors. But one of the things it's not supposed to be used for is to replace any of the care that's being given to you by your doctors. But we did attach an article from the Mayo Clinic called Support Groups Make Connections and Get Help. And as they said, the common experience among members of a support group often means they have similar feelings, worries, everyday problems, treatment decisions, or treatment side effects. And participating in a group provides you with an opportunity to be with people who are likely to have a common purpose and likely to understand one another. So before we get into all these benefits, I am curious, and it gives me a second to not talk. I know, Tammy, you found us through, I think we were posting about our support group. So tell us a little bit about what your experience was with Aortic Hope support group or with any other support group that you've attended.
Well, besides everything that's listed there, I think for me, one of the main things was to start understanding the terminology and hear it being used and how did it apply to me. And so that I could use that terminology when I was talking to my doctor so that we kind of were walking in the same world. The other thing that it really helped for me is to understand best practice. So when I would hear people talking about the same medication over and over again, and then I was prescribed that medication, I was like, okay, this makes sense. I've heard of this medication before. And then I would say the third thing that it's really helped me a lot with, besides the validation and not feeling alone, was to be able to come up with questions for my doctor. Because you don't know what you don't know, but by listening to other people's stories and other people's experiences, I was able, I feel like I can have better conversations with my doctor. And I don't go in and say, you know, so-and-so got cardiac rehab and I didn't, but it's tell me about cardiac rehab. What would I benefit from cardiac rehab? It just has helped me communicate with my doctor. Besides all the connections of being with people, everything that is the basis of a support group. But that's what I got out of it.
Your takeaway, Chris?
I will forever be grateful to this group because when I had come out and was, you know, hoping to go back to my career and everything, and I would read I'd read posts on Facebook on the group's Facebook area, and you know, I'd see people talking about their weightlifting limitations and stuff like that. And I read that for about 6 weeks before I finally, you know, in September, when I had my appointment with my doctor so that he could basically put me on a weightlifting limitation. I already expected that my career was over at that point. It was walking into that appointment. I didn't feel nervous in any type of way. I already knew at that point my career was already over. And somehow, you know, that 6 weeks of just reading people saying about, you know, weightlifting limits and different things, you know, I already knew that I had to, like you've said multiple times today, find a new normal. And I realized that old normal of being able to, you know, lift, you know, X amount of pounds and stuff like that and carry on my career, that you know, that part was gone. That part was done, and it is what it is. You know, you can you can, move on from it, or you can, be depressed about it for the rest of your life. And, I think the groups helped a lot in depression. Just reading what other people think, what other people say, um, reading different medications, like Tammy said, reading different medications and realizing, hey, I'm probably on some of these, and this is what they're having a problem with, and then you realize, hey, I'm kind of having some of these issues as well, and but yeah, I'm eternally grateful for this group for that.
That makes us feel good. We're glad.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to attend a support group meeting prior to my dissection or right after my dissection. Right after the dissection, because they didn't exist. I never heard of any. I was asking if they were doing them in the hospital setting. Of course, that would have been pre-COVID. They weren't doing them. So my first time ever going to a support group meeting was back in 2012, which was 3 years before the dissection, and I went for Crohn's disease. And so sometimes we now know how beneficial these meetings are, but sometimes for first time attendees, it's extremely triggering. It's very emotional, and they're not going to walk away with the happiest of feelings because they've maybe spent the whole time crying off camera. They're listening to stories that innately you think sound so much worse than your own. And everybody else is listening to yours thinking, oh my gosh, your story. And it's not a competition. If anything, it gives you this validation and appreciation for your own situation. And it's also hard to hear the words that this creates a disability, a true government recognized, described, defined disability. And those words, I think, just have still such a stigma attached to it that to realize you're attaching it to yourself, your whole identity's changed. And it's hard to walk away from one of these meetings and feel like, oh my God, this was amazing, other than meeting other people and they're living and they're breathing. And so that you can too. By the second meeting, for sure, I've not met anybody who thought this was horrible. By the second meeting, they realize this is safe. I'm comfortable. It's contained. It's private. And now I'm ready to share my inner demons too. And what I love about what we did is we started off with the patient combo caregiver for so many years. And then we realized that the caregivers really need their own place to just talk about how their life was changed. And it's not our faults as survivors, but their life has changed. And now they're being triggered when we don't pick up the phone right away and answer the call or answer the text. I mean, that old adage of, are you dead in the ditch? This is what they worry about. And it's not our worry. They need to have their own private group, and they do, and they meet twice a month. They meet on the first Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on the third Wednesday at 4 p.m. We actually have one coming up for caregivers on April 20th at 4 p.m., and our regular support group meeting on the 27th at 7 p.m. And brand new starting this month, we now will be offering quarterly support group meetings for individuals who are grieving the loss of a loved one, and that one is April 14th at 7 p.m. But let's talk a little bit about this, and the links to sign up one time only to be notified of all of these meetings will be listed here. They're also on this post. They're on our website. They're in our Facebook. They're everywhere. And if you ever have a question, email us at info@aortichope.org. We'll be sure to give you that information on how to sign up. But benefits of joining a support group could include feeling less lonely. We talked about that. You're not feeling isolated. You're not going to feel judged. It should help reduce your stress or any potential depression or anxiety or fatigue, because now you have to be present and show up. That takes energy. Talking openly and honestly about your feelings when you're ready, when you feel comfortable. It can help you improve with your skills to cope with these types of challenges in your life. Can help you stay motivated to manage chronic conditions and to stick to treatment plans, which we don't talk about that often, but how many times in this community do we hear people say, I hate taking pills. I don't want to take another pill. I hate taking my blood pressure. But they come to a support group meeting and they realize everybody else is doing the same thing. And in order to have the best chance at a good quality of life, you've got to do the same thing too. You gain a sense of empowerment or control or hope by coming to a support group meeting. As you said, Tammy, it helps you improve your understanding of this disease and your own experience with it, because we all have different experiences. You get practical feedback about treatment options, which again, we are not medical professionals. So all we do in these support group meetings is share our experiences as conversation starters for you to take to your doctors. And you can learn about health, economic, or social resources. And as you know, we've got all of the links, as we said here on this post. But for everything that I've seen, they're growing. Our groups are growing. We've got people from all over the globe. We've had people from New Zealand. We had somebody from Trinidad at one of our last meetings, which was so wonderful to see. Just to know that people can go through this and not be as scared, not feel as lost, and realize, oh my God, I'm talking to somebody else who also almost died, and they're here and they're talking and laughing and smiling and sharing stories or a recipe or an experience, you know? So, and a lot of friendships come out of these support group meetings, a lot of little sub friendship groups, which is great. Well, I'm so glad that both of you had a chance to be part of it before now. You've got all this experience, but you still come for tune-ups, because I know I go for tune-ups myself, which is good. Right. That is our Therapeutic Thursday. So let's move on to feeling good on Friday. So we did just wrap up our fundraiser, but we did post to everybody. This was such a great fundraiser, you guys. This was our don't delay, buy today, grab some swag and start a conversation about Aortic Hope. These were the offerings. This fundraiser has now ended, but I have a secret. We snagged a couple extra that we will be offering as giveaways to some of our future events, definitely in our bingo that happens on Cinco de Mayo. That would be May 5th. We'll offer them a couple times throughout the remaining part of the year, but never fear. Our shirts are located in our Hope Shop through Teespring, and the link is on our page right under that Hope Shop thing right here. You can just click that and you can go right to our shop and see all of our swag. So one of these days we're going to have a thing where we do an online runway and everybody put on all their swag. I'll have like 15 shirts on and I'll just take one more off and there'll be a new one. And I'll take one off and I'll have a hat. And I'm going to have a mug. I love our swag. People ask me all the time, what is this? I put on Think Aorta. They ask me, what's this? That's the best way to get, because as we know, this can happen to anybody. It is so more common than you think to have an aneurysm and have aortic disease. Dissection, rare. Anything prior to the actual event happening, so common, so much more common. So do either of you get a chance to buy anything?
Yes, but I love the idea somebody brought up when we've been together about buying them for your doctor and taking one to your cardiologist. I love that idea. That
is a great idea. You take one into your doctor. What did you buy, Tammy?
I bought the purple one.
I got the purple one, and I either got the gray one or the red one. God, I think I picked 3 this time.
I stared at them for so long.
I know. Were you able to snag any this time, Chris?
Yeah, I grabbed the gray one, and then I think I grabbed, was that teal or green? I can't remember.
It's gorgeous. It's jade. I have that. I have every single color. Just
yeah, I think I ordered that one for my wife.
It's beautiful.
I really wish the red and black one would have been in like men's.
You know what? I will look on our shop, and I am going to take a note, and I will look to see if we have the Raglan baseball. They may come in 3/4 length, and I do believe that I have seen those. And if I do, I'll just whip them up and crate them, add them to the shop, and let you know.
I'm totally down for 3/4 length shirts. You don't even know.
Well, I'm totally down for trying to figure out how to make some more.
Every day, I mean, I've got I don't know, a few shirts that I've ordered, you know, for a while now, and anytime that I go out in public, you know, whether it be either to the gym or like I said, I try to go to the zoo a couple times a week. I usually try to wear something about that, and I don't want to say every time, but I mean, there's a good percentage of times where people have literally asked me, "What's this about?" You know, and you know, you talk about it for 10 minutes, and you know, whether they take anything out of it or not, that's not really up to me, but you know, hopefully that they take something, and you know, the message will continue to get spread.
I'll tell you, one of the most impactful things too, if you're ever wearing a bracelet and you'd come across somebody who says, oh, you know what, that happened to somebody in my family, take your bracelet off and just say, I'm going to give this to you in honor of your family member. It's just, you want to talk about putting the name aortic hope in someone's head. It's not just the bracelet, it's the act of giving it and passing it on and moving it forward. The other thing too is, if we're all getting ready to have our physicals because we've been not able to do so for so long. Wear one of your pieces of swag into the physical. Let us know. We'll send you some rack cards, some of these patient information cards. Go in there and show the doctor the shirt. They're going to ask you about it. They're going to already know it's in your history, but see if you can talk with them about their willingness to let other people know about aortic hope so they can send their patients to us.
It's funny you mentioned the cards. I never even asked my doctors if I could do that, and I got like I think I got like 2 orders from you. I took one into my cardiothoracic surgeon's office, which I just went in there last week, and there was like 3 or 4 left. And then I went into my regular doctor, didn't ask anybody. I literally set the thing down, went into my appointment, walked back out, and there were already a couple that were already gone. And I go back next week for another appointment. So I'll look again, see if there's any of them are gone.
That's so wonderful. That's what we like to see. I like walking into a doctor's office and all of a sudden somebody new and they're on the counter and I know I didn't bring them in there, but there they are. Or one time I went to my cardiologist and I didn't see them, but then I knew that they were handing it out when they were having their clinic visit one-on-one. So doctors like to do them differently. I'm just happy that they're doing it at all. It's really important. Yeah.
Sure.
So that was our Feel Good Friday. And then this was our we had our general Survivor Series advertising post. And look, at the end of the day, the community wants to hear from you. So if you're someone who's had an aortic dissection, have an active aortic aneurysm, have bicuspid valve or had your valve replaced, I don't care if it's abdominal or if it's in your thoracic area, it's one vessel. We do not discriminate that way. If you had a family member that had this, if you lost somebody, if you knew a friend, it doesn't matter. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. And we play them and we share them certain Saturdays during the month. At the end of the day, we want you to be the shining store. That's my New York accent, the shining store. We want you to be the shining star in someone's life by submitting your story of survival or caring for someone with aortic disease. And we actually are also very curious about the symptoms that you experience during the process of diagnosis, because as we know, too many doctors are not thinking aorta when their patients come in. So if you happen to be someone where maybe it took a little bit of extra time, we want to share that. If you're someone where they got you right back, golden standard of care, we want to share that. We want to share both on Think Aorta's website, because that's showing that either somebody did something very right and you are our surviving stars, or some doctors need to think aorta a little bit sooner. So that is that's where we go with sharing these stories. Now listen, you can do it live like we are here. Just tell your story. You can do it pre-recorded, and if you have to do a couple takes, it's okay. You can also send it to us in written format. And if you've already participated in our Survivor Series, we want to know what you're doing now. Where are you now, right? In the process of recovery. We have a whole other series for people like you. And we just want to know, are you a horseback riding? Are you working? Did you see your new grandbaby be born? Tell us what's going on with you. Have you been suffering any residual PTSD? Have your medications changed? Have you needed a subsequent surgery? Everything is important. And we're all like waiting on bated breath to find out what's been going on with you. But we do not pay anybody who submits, and we make it very clear that when you sign up, you are allowing your story to be seen not only on our Facebook page, our website page, but also on YouTube, potentially on Think Aorta, and actually potentially anywhere, because anybody can take this and share it. They can take the link, and we hope that they're going to share it, because again, it's more common than you think. Chris did his story. Tammy did her story. I've got a couple stories. So whoever's watching this, we need your story. So consider sharing it with us. What did you think? Did you guys get a chance to read other stories that are out there? What are your thoughts on the videos and the written format and the stories you're hearing?
Yeah, I like both of them. I will say, and I don't know if this happened to Chris or not, but there was a time that it was too soon for me to watch them. I tried watching some of them. With the reading, you can just stop and like kind of get your breath. But the videos, there was a couple of videos in the beginning I had to just turn off, and I couldn't finish listening to them as badly as I wanted to know what happened and what it was like for them. But now I'm far enough in it. I know that everybody's story is different. Whatever happened to them is not necessarily going to happen to me. But it's very, it's connecting. There's a feeling of connecting, even though you've never met this person, there's that connection when you listen to them. Did that happen to you, Chris?
Yeah. I think even watching the videos now, like there's a few that I've been able to watch. I've watched, I think you got two, Karen, that I've watched both of those. And I can watch those. I can watch those pretty decently. But I'm a year out on Thursday. Woo. And it's all still pretty fresh. I still get a little emotional even now just reading them. But I like that I'm that way. I like that I'm not cold to it. I'm sympathetic to a lot of people, with that have gone through this. I think it's crazy how everybody's stories are different.
Yeah.
Karen, you had yours. You got to possibly have to say goodbye to your son, and all that stuff. And mine happened at 2:30 in the morning, and I drove myself to the ER, and I woke up 2 months later.
Crazy.
Not being able to walk or talk or anything for that, from having strokes and everything. And yours was like a week or two, I think, that you were out of the hospital.
Well, it's in and out in 5 days. It was
there
ridiculous.
You go. Yeah. I mean, everybody's story is different. But it's the really cool thing I think about it is, even though everybody's story is different, I can still find something that we relate to in some type of way.
You're absolutely right.
Even you and I, even if if this one never happened, I have Crohn's disease as well. So I mean, we relate on that. But I do love that I can literally find something in someone's story and I can relate to it, and I feel like that helps me continue to be sympathetic towards people that have had to go through what they have.
Right. Well, and I know that there are other survivors out there from reading stories and listening that have Crohn's disease. And that was the first indicator for me that I thought, okay, this might be one of the reasons why this happened. I know that my father had an abdominal aortic aneurysm. I detached my retina, so did his mother. We all have degenerative disc disease, but my mother's whole side had Crohn's. And an inflammatory bowel disease keeps those your CRP, your inflammatory markers in your blood. When you're running in the 30s with those numbers, that's extremely high. And that is taxing on your vascular system. Your heart's working in overdrive to get rid of the inflammation. So you start thinking, if I see, you had Crohn's, now you have Crohn's, and you have Crohn's, there's something there. And I know that a lot of patients with Crohn's disease can also have ankylosing spondylitis. Not every ankylosing spondylitis has Crohn's, but a lot of Crohn's patients have AS. And it has already been proven that there's a link between aortic aneurysms and AS. So why not also with Crohn's? So you do have an opportunity to learn something from these survivors' stories. And I feel, even 7 years out, when I hear stories of delayed diagnosis, misdiagnosis, I find it so gut-wrenching and frustrating. And then when I hear stories where people are taken right back, where they were able to articulate family history, and a doctor recognized that as one of the key critical components why they need to think about the aorta, and they were able to have their life-saving surgery right away. It's just so makes me feel so good. Like, this whole think aorta and getting people talking about how common this is might be really making a difference. So I think that sharing these stories, they do make a difference to ourselves individually, to our family members, to the community at large, and hopefully to the physicians. And I do know that physicians read our pages. So if you have not submitted your story of survival as a caregiver, as a patient, or even if there was a situation where someone didn't survive, those are very important stories. Your loved ones' stories are important, they mattered, and we want to know about that. Please consider submitting and clicking on the link and signing up. That's our Survivor Series Saturday. And then we had a fun one on Sunday, which I can't show you all the pictures here, but it was Show Your Scar Sunday. And as we put up a post here, we said you can look at a scar and see hurt, or you can look at a scar and see healing. And we're always talking about flipping the script and changing the narrative. And if people participated and showed us pictures of their scars, glue, staple, stitches, didn't matter. We did a random drawing and they had a chance to win the Aortic Disease Awareness Magnet, which anybody can purchase or not purchase. Anybody can receive with a $10 donation. That is also underneath of our Hope Shop tabs. It's about 4 or 5 inches long, looks great on the car, and catches people's eyes as well. And you start that conversation about aortic disease. So scars. Yeah, we get a lot of them. You get your chest tubes, you got some other cardiac thing, you got the thing in the neck, you get the thing on the collarbone, you get the big, huge zipper. There's a lot. If I added up all my scars, I think, God, I've lost count. I've had 4 bowel resections, knee replacements, appendix. When I woke up from this and I got home, I cried and I said, who's going to ever really love me now I'm married? I look like Frankenstein. And everybody feels the same way. Everybody looks and it's so scary. And then you realize, oh God, you've got this great story to tell. It's just skin. Nobody's getting out of here without a blemish. It's impossible. But good story to tell, right? It's just skin is our housing unit. And you got to get to a point where you realize, who cares? Life is about a lot more than just anything that's going on exterior. And that's where I am finally. I don't care, scar, whatever. You know, I dare you to ask me why I have it, because then it's fun, right? The doctors that you go see, they're like, oh, did you have open heart surgery? Yeah, let me tell you about this thing called an aortic dissection. And they're like, you had one of those? Oh my God. So it's fun. It's fun to freak them out. I love freaking the dentist out and people that don't usually hear about it. So what are your thoughts about scars?
Well, I have a lot of scars because I had a double mastectomy that started all of this. But one of my funny story, or it's not a funny story, it's funny to me now, is when I had my open heart surgery. It was on this. They put all the whatever's attached to you when you wake up was all on the same side as my port. And when all that was taken away and I got home, I realized that one side of my chest was sinking in, was like much different than the other side. So at one of my cardiologist appointments, I asked about it. I thought something was really wrong. And he is like, oh, I forgot to put a pad of fat back in there that usually goes back under your skin right there. And so when I had my second surgery, I asked them to take the other side out because it's not like we could put the other side back in, so I would look even again. So I have like 2 sinking spots on each side of my, where the pad of fat used to be right there. So,
yep.
So now I look even. In my first surgery, I was put, I don't know if it was fast or what, but my collarbone was not even. One was higher than the other. And then when Dr. Taylor did my second surgery, when he put back together, he said that he was really, really careful. And now I'm even again with my collarbone.
There you go.
It's the little things.
Yep.
And I don't care about my scars. I used to be, and I used to try to cover them up, and I thought about makeup, and I'm so far past that. I don't care. So.
Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm riddled with scars. I'm like a walking, talking medical dictionary. I mean, I've had a couple, surgeries for the Crohn's. I've had gallbladder removed. I've had, with with the aorta, had 3 chest tubes. You had the one up here by the collarbone, and then of course the very large zipper that's like as wide as my daggone thumb. They said mine was so wide, and it's so for lack of a better word, gnarly looking. Is they left my chest open for a week because they didn't know if they didn't know if my graft was going to hold, so they left it open for a week. And when I went back in for the second surgery, they had closed it up, but I mean it's so big. But when I was in my 20s and I was getting divorced and was starting to date again, with colostomy bags and stuff, you're just it's like, I mean, it's very, very hard to describe all that, and luckily, I married a woman who is is a registered nurse, but she's also one of the most compassionate people, and she didn't see that, and I think when I look at it now, she sees the scars, especially the one for the aorta, as just something that's just remarkable to see, and I see hideousness in it, and I'm like, man, I don't like that, and she just actually sees like a beauty in it, and it's absolutely crazy how some people see that, and me with it, I see the ugliness in it, I just.
Well, we're our worst critic, right? I mean, one of the things I was most scared about, forget the open heart surgery. Oh, all those years of Crohn's, I don't want a colostomy. Oh my gosh, that would mean the worst thing. And yet I've been in remission from Crohn's for 4 years. I just had my most recent colonoscopy. I can't even believe that it's still in remission. And, I mean, it just bothers me. My husband doesn't see any of it. He just literally, I ask him all the time. I'm like, even though it's kind of skin color, I'm like, do you notice this? He goes, no, I noticed you going, do you notice this?
Oblivious, completely oblivious.
Totally oblivious. And the only scar I have that upset me was when my third bowel resection, and I woke up and they forgot to give me my belly button. And that was very weird to look and to say I didn't have anything. I mean, and one would say it's one less thing to clean, but to me, I lost the connection to my mother. Like that was my belly button. So when I had to have it cut open again, I had to go in for the 4th surgery. I said, please just leave me a little something, little sliver. Right. And so I had the teeniest, tiniest little, I said I'm big enough to put a ring in, and I had a gorgeous belly button when I was younger in my 20s. So, I mean, if my father wouldn't have beaten me for getting a belly button ring, I would have. But now I don't even know what it is. It's like a chin, it's like a dimple, but it's still there. So it counts as a belly button. But yeah, that's the only one that just kind of irks me. Everything else, it's like, I don't care, whatever. It is what it is. Just you start to see things a little bit differently. And, we can always tell when people are improving emotionally, when they vacillate out of the community for a while, and then they know they can always come back here if they're having another situation or a problem. But this one was an important one, I think. I think if anything, it gets you to think, how much time am I really spending on a scar? And I think of it like you, Chris. I mean, I think our loved ones look at our scars and they're like, oh my God, it's so beautiful because you're breathing and you're still here. Like, I want to just look at everything because that means you're still here for me to look at. So that's the positive thing.
And I'm just like, don't look at me.
Have you ever done a survey of how many people had something else besides like like I had the breast cancer, you guys had. It would be interesting to see how many people had something else.
Some other condition like lupus.
It didn't just stop at this.
Right. Yeah, like Crohn's disease, lupus, RA, some other underlying condition, cancer before their dissection. I think that's going to be a post. That's a great idea. Thank you so much. We're going to ask that question in the community.
I've always wondered that.
Yep, that's a good question.
It'd be nice to hear, other people that, maybe have gone through something other than just this.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Not
that
like
makes it
this
very
is,
hard.
yeah, not like this isn't enough. Like,
Well, and can you imagine? I mean, having these other, some people have cancer after the dissection, even though most I've heard had it before. But to have to manage, you know, gosh, I mean, even Crohn's, like coming out of surgery, the amount of air that was in my chest and the irritation, because then I had to add a probiotic in. I mean, the irritation from all these new drugs that were being put in my stomach, it was like the last thing in the world I needed was to have intestinal issues. And not that I needed the stool softener, because that's not the kind of Crohn's issues I had. I mean, it was just so painful, right? Just so uncomfortable. And when you're in pain, then your blood pressure goes up. And also, I'm missing 6 feet of intestine. I'm missing the portion that absorbs medication. So that's why I'm mineral deficient, vitamin deficient. I have to have a patch. I wear a clonidine patch so that I'm ensured that I get some degree of blood pressure medication. And that's why I was on disability, because some days the blood pressure is perfect. Other days I'm in the 140s, and I took the same pills at the same time, but it didn't get enough to absorb. It just zipped right out of there a little too fast. So yeah, that's a really good question. I am curious to know. We will ask. So I appreciate you asking. But that wraps up our week in review. I do want to remind everybody again that on April 14th at 7 p.m., we'll have our very first bereavement support group meeting. On the 20th, we have our caregiver support group meeting at 4 p.m. Again, it is strictly for caregivers. And on April 27th at 7 p.m., we have our regular for patients support group meeting. We look forward to seeing all of you there. We have a very busy summer of exciting activities that we will be announcing soon and putting on our events page. And we are here next week, same time. In the meantime, before next week, I wish everyone who is celebrating a happy Easter, Good Friday, and Passover.
Yes. And I want to give everybody a reminder. We've been sending this help belts out. They've been available to people for a while now for a donation. And if you've had your help belt for 2 years or more, you might want to take a look inside and see if the information on the inside is still correct. I just changed mine today and updated it.
You are so smart. I would have never even thought to do that. We're going to talk about that when we post, because we do have some news. We will be adding Loeys-Dietz syndrome to our help belt menagerie. So we will have thoracic aortic aneurysm, abdominal aortic aneurysm, aortic dissection, medic alert, Marfan syndrome, and now Loeys-Dietz syndrome as well. Looking to add vascular Ehlers-Danlos right around the corner, but you pick out whatever belt makes you feel comfortable. But that's a really good point, like springing forward or falling back, if we even do that anymore. How will I remember to change the batteries now in my smoke detector? Double check your medication list that's in your card of the help belt. Double check the back of your medical ID bracelets. That's important too. Yeah, very good point there, Tammy. Ding, ding, ding. And happy aortiversary ahead of time to Chris on your 1 year.
Yes. Yes.
Hope you celebrate well.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thank you again so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and please share. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk soon.